and today we're talking about the one skill you absolutely need to have visionary leadership. Now, a lot of you want to be great leaders. We covered the light leadership framework before, but now we're talking a little bit more about one skill. If I had one thing that I had you focus on in order to take the next level of leadership, in order to have radical clarity, we're going to be talking about that today on the one skill you need, and I'm calling it the King's Habit. The King's Habit, because if you want to be top dog, no, that's not why we call it the King's Habit. We're gonna talk about it in a quick second in today's episode 359 of the Spark Show. But before we do any of that, you know what we're doing? We're starting with Morning Cup of Gratitude. Grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, or just freaking warm water, because you and me are going to have coffee together this morning. Good morning, lady. I hope you're doing fantastic. Good to see you there. Grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, because we're about to get ready in today's episode of the Grant Spark Show, talking about the one habit, the King's Habit you need to be a visionary leadership. Let's talk about it. But before we do any of that, my morning cup of gratitude is this. I am absolutely so grateful and full of joy for people like you that have a blank slate. Now, a lot of us have an idea for what we want to do in our business or our ministry or our nonprofit or whatever thing we're trying to get people to do. We're trying to lead. And if you watch me at all, if you have a business at all, you lead people. If you have a ministry at all, you lead people. If you're involved politically, you lead people. Ducky King Lucifer says, howdy. That's on Twitch. Good morning. Good morning, sir. So yeah, whatever it is you do, you lead. You want other people to take massive action. And if that's the case for you, if you want other people to take massive action, if you're a creator and you want people to follow your show, if it doesn't matter what it is, you need to start as a blank slate yourself. We covered this a little bit. We did a mini series a little while back, the last few weeks, called the Light Leadership Framework. We're going to synthesize that and turn that into a tool for everyone, so you just have access to our leadership framework. But if you want to achieve bigger goals, if you want to do more with your life, you're going to have to be a leader. And the number one rule of leadership is be a blank slate. You have to be a blank slate. You have to be able to listen without judgment in order to synthesize and learn things. So today, what I am grateful for is is in a habit I have in my own life, but a habit that I hope you have in your life, and that is becoming a blank slate in order to lead. Ducky King Lucifer says, I totally get you. I own a restaurant and I lead my team in letting them make new things. Absolutely. If you have a restaurant, if you have a creative team, I have a team on the website company, and they're responsible for absolutely coming up with new website designs and new solutions for us. I'm often the source of the vision, but vision is imbued in other people. And if you caught, again, any of the last series, it was really about not just letting the vision live in you, but imbuing that vision in other people. So Ducky King, 100% being able to imbue an ethos in your team where they invent new things, invent new foods, in Ducky's example, develop new websites and new troubleshooting solutions in the website company, develop new content on the content side, or whatever you're doing. It's some form of troubleshooting and problem and solving. And believe it or not, most people don't have the native ethos of solving problems. Most people that are leaderless bring problems to other people and no solutions. What should we do for a new menu in Ducky King's example? What should I do for a new menu? Well, I don't know. You think of it. And here's my ethos. And so some of that's training, but a lot of it is visionary leadership and imbuing it in them. Ducky King says, yeah, vision and imagination are important to me. If they ask me, they want to make a new thing, I let them free to try it. That's such a great work environment to be in. This is honestly where 3M came up with the sticky note. If you guys use sticky notes at all, that came from the 3M company allowing and paying its people to experiment and come up with new solutions. That's visionary leadership. So for my morning cup of gratitude, before we get into the lesson on the single habit, what I call the King's Habit, that I believe you need to be a visionary leader for the long haul. We can lead with charisma over the short term. We can lead with good ideas, or maybe even throwing money at people, or even the carrot and the stick, disciplining people for a certain period of time. But for the long haul, to sustain long-term visionary leadership, and I mean over your lifetime, with the rewards of the compounding of good leadership over time, I believe you need this one skill. Before we get into that, thank you so much, Ducky, for sharing how you lead. And I want to applaud that. Shout out to you. Shout out to you for leading and creating an environment where your people feel comfortable to experiment with new things. And I'm willing to bet the people that visit your restaurants or your food truck or whatever it is you have, I'm willing to bet they benefit. Sometimes it's a fun experiment and it's really good. Sometimes something doesn't go over so well, but everyone laughs it off and tries the next thing. That's super freaking cool. Real quick, one other piece of other news. Other news. I like to look through the news because there's such trash news out there. I like to find good news, news that's edifying to leaders, to people that are positive, to builders like Ducky King, like you guys taking on the next level in your business. There's got to be good news. Quick piece of good news. It comes from Atmos.Earth, which is a science magazine or article or periodical website. And they have a great article that I was reading this morning. It was unpacking the science and mysticism of intuition. And it was one scientific researcher's attempt to figure out, like, is intuition legit or is it just BS? And there's a great article. I'm going to drop it here in the comments because I really recommend that everyone take a look. Let me drop it there. Boom. There it is in the comments. I really recommend you check this article out. There was a quote in it from Albert Einstein that said, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant." Your rational mind does not lead. Your intuition and your intuitive mind leads. The rational mind delegates, is a tactician, is a great servant, but it doesn't lead us into greener pastures. It doesn't make your people passionate. Real quick, and this is a quick excerpt from this. Neuroscience suggests intuition is the brain's rapid processing of stored information in the body and in and around you in the memory, while spiritual traditions frame it as inner sight, heart knowledge, or divine connection. So it's an unction. It's what the author of Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien, called mythos. Or if you're a spiritual person, you call God or spirit. But your unconscious mind starts gathering all the signals from the news and what's going on. Maybe it's restaurant information for Ducky King. Maybe it's political information if you're leading a political movement. Maybe it's a pastor's intuition. They read a bunch of books and they read a bunch of material, and then they get quiet. Then they listen to their body. They listen to their unconscious mind, their signals, and an idea forms, and it takes the shape of their spirituality. Ducky King says, "For me, I avoid the news. In this time, most now is so much drama build that it makes people hesitate on things they want to do." This is exactly why I get on this show, Ducky King. I've been doing this this is episode 359 since COVID. I've been jumping on this show to give people something else to hear, to stimulate their own thought and their own creativity, because most news causes people to hesitate. I want this news to cause people to take action. And things they want to do, like be free and try, because giving up is not in my word book. Ducky King Lucifer is becoming one of my new buddies. I'm telling you, Ducky King, I love your spirit, man. I love your words, because that's what we do here. I'm the Goals Daddy. I'm Grant Sparks, and we focus on this. And Claude Cornetti over here says, "Where can we see what was dropped in the comments?" I don't see it in IG. Yes, Claude Cornetti. You can see it. I'm sorry, I don't have it. I'm doing like Twitch streaming and YouTube streaming and Facebook streaming over here. So I apologize. I can't drop that link on the cell phone because it's on my desktop. But if you check out Facebook later, you can check the article. Fantastic article, Claude. Thank you for asking. But check out my Facebook, Grant Sparks, grantsparks.me. You can find me there, or on YouTube, grantsparks.me, and you'll see the comment right there. So thanks for asking about that. Ducky King is right. We avoid the news because at this time now, nearly every clickbait, and it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with the article, you are being sucked into some form of, reactionism, consumption. Claude says, "Okay, awesome. Thanks. Check it out there. And if you need anything at all, DM." And so why am I talking about intuition? Because I believe that you can train your intuition with today's lesson, the thing I call the King's Habit. We're going to unpack this in like 3 seconds here. But I did a whole mini series on leadership. And this whole series on leadership that we called the Light Freedom Framework, or the Light Framework, of leadership, which is basically the Spark Nation, State of the Spark. That's our framework for leadership. We went through it for weeks and it was fantastic. But we're talking about this because if I had to summarize all the leadership into one lesson, it would start with what we're going to cover today. And so I'm talking about intuition because I believe you can train your intuition with the King's Habit. With the King's Habit, I absolutely believe. And why do I know this? I've been doing this habit consciously and unconsciously since I was about 21. And I'm going to share with you how this has led into a lot of the ways that I've been leading out in my own life. So let's just jump right in. That was the preface. Let's talk about the King's Habit, and let's get you up and running to the next level of your clarity, your visionary leadership, and whatever freedom that Ducky King is talking about, that I'm talking about, whatever freedom you're pursuing. Here, let me scroll down. Okay, good. Hold on. We're connecting to your channels. Okay, cool. Let's actually talk about the King's Habit. So everyone wants to lead with vision. Everyone sees other people lead and they think, man, if I could only lead like that. But without vision and clarity, leadership is just a temporary vibe that people can get sucked into, but pretty quickly they'll realize you're a bit shallow. People will realize pretty quickly you're a little shallow. And it's unfortunate, but if you've ever led in something and people have gone away, and a leader believes this one principle. A leader believes this one principle first and foremost, and that principle is this: everything rises and falls on leadership. If there's something going wrong with the business, it's on leadership. And here's the other thing. If there's something going right, a good leader blames it on the team. If there's something going right, a leader gives credit to the team. That's what a good leader does. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And so if people come around for a short period of time, they like what you have to say, or they like the thing you're leading in, whether it's a business like Ducky King, whether it's a ministry like we used to do when we were in the church, whether it's a political movement or like I'm doing with State of the Spark, I'm trying to really create a community around people who are focused and passionate and encouraging one another on goals. That's the nation State of the Spark, where we stay sparked. Double entendre. Everyone wants to lead with vision, but if people come or go, everything rises and falls on leader. And so I usually generalize. I really generally believe that if you think you're leading, here's the quote: if you think you're leading and no one's following, you're really just taking a walk. I've heard this quote more times than not, and it really zings me every time. But if I think I'm leading and people come and then fade away, there's some point in my leadership that lacks clarity, and they will pick up intuitively that I'm really just a charismatic vibe. I'm not leading us anywhere good. There's nothing to cling on to. So without vision, your leadership is just a temporary vibe. And so there's one element that I call the King's Habit, that when we covered the light leadership framework, the first L in the light, LIGHT, was the leadership framework, LIGHT, and it was an acronym. And L starts with you, and it was, you got to lead yourself first. It was that you have to lead yourself first. If you do not lead yourself first, and we said it like this: you got to get in front of the mirror before you get in front of the microphone. Ducky King says, indeed, a good leader is not only being in charge, but also listening to other people, because their ideas could help you in a way. So everyone can be a leader. You just have to take that step. This is absolutely true. Leadership is not a title. It's an ethos in your community. It's a culture in your business. It's a vibe in your tribe. If there are mechanisms by which anyone can step up and lead in a direction, and I don't mean lead with problems, I mean lead with solutions. I cannot tell you whether it's the businesses or the public speaking or the workshops that we do, launching Influencer Academy, launching any of the past businesses, the MLMs. I've been doing this almost 25 years, guys. And nearly every time I can find plenty of people that say, I want to be involved. And then they bring problems and then look at you with an empty stare on how you're going to fix it. Now, that's my fault for creating that culture. So I'm going to own the solution right there. But what needs to be fixed is anyone on your team can step up and lead, but they have to lead with solutions. They do need to present a problem. Hey, I saw this problem, but here's what I'm thinking. Can I lead this initiative? Absolutely. How can I support you? That's good leadership. Ducky, you're hitting on all cylinders. Good stuff. So a major problem is that many other people want to lead with vision, but they find that people tend to go away. And what's worse, leaders spin in circles because their ideas never make it from out of their mind into other people. How do we bridge this? And then what's more, everyone's attention spans, we know this, everyone's attention spans are shorter than a goldfish, actually. There's good research that the average human attention span, on average, is shorter than a goldfish. And there's science for this. I got to go find the article. I read it and it blew my mind because a goldfish can actually focus on its objective for, I think it was something like 14 seconds. But the average American, especially with their feeds, when tested for attention spans, it was usually less than 5, some number like this. I got to go find out. I got to go get this number for you. The world is noisy. And when someone, maybe one of your followers, maybe someone else out there who's thinking, I'm going to lead, and you have this inspiration to lead, and you're laying in bed thinking, I'm going to start my new business. I'm going to start this new habit. I'm going to start a direction, get a bunch of people. We're going to do a run club, or we're going to start a coffee cart downtown just as a side hustle. And they're having this thought in bed and they're brewing and like, okay, I'm going to get up and do this. They get up, they go put their shoes on, they start brushing their teeth. And while they're brushing their teeth, they open their phone and they flip open to Snapchat. They flip open to TikTok. They flip open to Twitter or X or Threads or whatever it is. And literally they forgot what they were thinking about. They were just about to lead and they forgot what they were thinking about. This is where the King's Habit comes in. We're going to solve this right now. This is a quick framework I have. And anytime I bring a solution to you, I try to bring a freedom framework. It's a framework where you can experience more freedom by applying the framework in your own life. That's freedom frameworks. And this is the freedom framework of getting your idea of leadership into reality. Now, again, we covered a whole, it was like a 5-week mini session on the Light Leadership Framework, LIGHT. This is the King's Habit, and it's one specific habit, and it's this. Boom. And real quick, Ducky King Lucifer says the world is very noisy. Like you have so many screens and phones around you that show you the news over and over that you don't know what to believe anymore. And to find that stop button in your mind is so hard for so many people that stops things they want to try or do. It's called a pattern interrupt. And who we are, what Ducky King Lucifer's talking about is who we are a pattern. All that makes me me is the cadence of my voice, how I wake up in the morning, what I do with my morning, what I read, what I put out there. It's just habits and patterns. Now I can shape those habits and patterns. But what we're finding with people very uniquely today is they cannot establish their own pattern. It's starting with their thoughts. Because they start generating a pattern. They start generating a thought, an idea. Maybe I'll do this side hustle. Maybe I'll help on the nonprofit field in Haiti or the Gaza Strip or in Africa. I'll go somewhere, the Sudan, somewhere where people need help. I'm going to do this. And they have this idea brewing and they start to get inspired. And then there's a pattern interrupt. And it's crafted. It's meant to be this way. They're not trying to stop you from serving in the Sudan, but they are trying to get your attention for advertising clicks. They're not, quote unquote, malicious. I put that in air quotes, but they are intentional. And they're intentionally interrupting these patterns that Ducky King is talking about. So here's the principles, real quick, of the King's Habit. Here's the principles. To lead, you need vision. To have vision, you need clarity. To get clarity, this is the King's Habit. You need, hear me on this, do not bail. You need to be able to write. What? Writing? Yes, writing. You need to be able to write. It is leadership's number one weapon. I have a quick framework for you, the King framework. It's the King's Habit and the King framework. But hear me on this. Please let me make my case on this. Writing, yes, I even would include OneNote or Keep or any other note-taking app you have. But the ability to write your habits, to write your thoughts down, to lay in bed and to think about your side hustle or your initiative or serving in the Gaza, you sit there. If you put your shoes on, go brush your teeth and skim your feed, that was captured nowhere. But to be in the writing habit, good morning, Jeremy. I hope you're doing great. To be in the writing habit, to write your thought down, to wake up and write that thought down. And I'm gonna break this down for you real quick. But if you had one thing and then you had to get to work this morning, please do this. Start writing. Write down your notes. Write down on sticky notes. And here's the thing. You could even lose your notes. But the king's habit of writing down your thoughts, especially if they're important to you and inspiring in the moment, writing them down and being in the habit of writing creates a clarity that is absolutely necessary to be a visionary leader. If you are a leader and do not have your thoughts captured somewhere, maybe it's a business system and a mission statement and a purpose statement written down somewhere for you to review. Maybe it's your political movement manifesto. Maybe it's notes to your followers who are going to support your cause in the Sudan, the Gaza Strip. It could be anything like that. But to capture your why, to capture your purpose so that when you hit conflict, you have taken the moment. There's a whole study called neurographology. You got to know this. It's when you take a pen or a pencil and you have a thought. There's 2 steps of creation. And the 2 steps of creation are this. When it hits your mind, that's the first stage of creation, but that's not enough for it to manifest in the world. For it to manifest in the world, you have to take action. But the very first action you take to get it out of the ether and into the reality is to put ink to pen. And this ink is chaotic. It's just liquid. But when you start to write the letters or when you start to type the electrons and they start forming words, you're literally taking the matter of the ether and giving it the shape of the thing you're trying to manifest. And what that will then snowball into is you remembering that you wrote it. And when you remember that you wrote it, you are more likely to remember it throughout the day. If in this anecdote where you're laying in bed and having this idea of a side hustle of a coffee cart or starting a run club or working in the developing world, and you write it down on a sticky note and stick it by your bed or stick it on your desk, then go brush your teeth. Then if you hit the feeds, you might get distracted. But as soon as you get back to your desk or back to your bed, you'll see that note and you'll touch it again and it'll send a signal to your brain. Yes, I remember what this felt like. I was inspired. It's a neurobiological reaction. It's real. So when you write it, it sends it into your physiology and your intuition is now informed and then looking for that thing throughout the day. It's called your reticular activating cortex. All of this is engineered to work this way if you do one thing, write. This is why when writing became mass production, specifically after the Gutenberg, we were writing long before that, but when the Gutenberg machine came out, why we ballooned because literacy became important and literacy went from mysticism. Remember, only spiritually guided people were writing before the Gutenberg. It was a spiritual practice. They were writing and spelling, aka writing spells. And they thought it was magical. They thought it was beautiful on what it could create as you wrote things. A lot of the ancient mysticism, we're looking for like, is it alchemy? Is it some mystical ether, metaphysics? No, it was literally writing. They had a correlation between these enlightened spiritualists who could write like the priests in Israel or like the Babylonians writing cuneiform. If they could write, they could create our reality because it gave us instructions. It was mystical. Now we just take it for granted. The Gutenberg machine came out and we started mass printing and mass reading and mass literacy started happening. And if you notice, most of society ballooned from then, rapidly exponentially growing after that because writing is magical. Ducky King Lucifer writing his notes to me. We're transmitting something one to another, and it's creating encouragement and hopefully action. Writing can create clarity in you. That clarity in you creates vision in you, and you embody and hum. You hum at that vibration of that vision, and then you have what we call visionary leadership. But if you just wake up and say, oh, I remember, you were laying in bed and I remember, and then you start just running off charisma. Everyone has an internal, unconscious, intuitive bullshit meter. And we know when someone's trying to lead us from a BS place that's very shallow. We know when someone is leading us from a place that they have done the work, they've done the reading. You could not know that I have a stack of books. And you probably know I'm a reader. And sitting right by my desk, this was some of my morning reading this morning alone. You probably intuitively know that I've read these 2 books this morning that's surrounding my desk area, that I'm a bit educated. There's unconscious reasons you know this. And then when you encounter a leader who's just shallow, you know that too. And I am trying to encourage you, if you have hit your limit in leadership, to back it up to vision. How do you get vision? Back it up to clarity. How do you get the back up to clarity? Back it up to writing, the writing habit. This is the king's habit. Here's my framework. Number 1, keep a journal. Every morning, write in your journal. I wrote in my journal again this morning. I find there's a direct correlation between when this show, the Spark Show, is inspired and when it's not, directly correlates to whether or not I journaled that morning. I could talk to ChatGPT and get a really good framework. And I know how to have the charisma just to get up here and spout off for my show. I've done over 400 episodes of this, another 100 episodes of the crypto show. Like, we've done a lot of content. I've publicly speaking. I've done a lot of coaching. Sure, you can pick up on that. But the days that are inspired, when I have a lot of engagement on Instagram and Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, it's a little different. It's a little inspired. Those are the days that I have been keeping a journal. The king's habit is writing daily, and preferably writing 6 pages a day. That sounds like a lot, Grant. That's back in the school days. Now, I was journaling this morning. I was literally just downloading my thoughts. It was chaotic. It was not organized. Just downloading my thoughts into my journal this morning, and I came up and I had 3 pages. I'm halfway there. But I have that clarity in what my own thoughts are because it was just me and my journal. Number 1, keep a journal. Capture your raw thoughts. It does not matter if it's gobbledygook. It's going to be difficult at first, but as you get into this habit, you'll find that you'll come out of your journaling session and you will be razor sharp clear. If you are dealing with brain fog, I am not kidding about this. If you are dealing with brain fog about your job, your kids, your income, your self-confidence, your fears, your marriage, your concern, I guarantee right now, I guarantee it, if you journal, you might not have all the answers, but you will be confident and sharp with your positions. It builds confidence. You set a timer for 10 minutes. If you do not have 10 minutes, you do not have a life. Set your timer for 10 minutes and journal, and it could be anything. It could be what happened yesterday, what you're planning today. It could be I'm frustrated because. It could be like I want to vent and go knock someone's head around. It could be I'm not feeling anything today. It could be whatever it is, but you start typing and putting thoughts because you're rehearsing. Just like when you go to the gym and it's like, I want to go bench a lot of weight, or women, I want to go build up a strong booty at the gym. And they show up day 1 and they're like, I should be able to do hip thrusts or squats or bench press, but they can't do it. So they put lighter weight on, right? They're trying to build the muscle memory of being able to do more. That's what you're doing when you're journaling. And when you're journaling gobbledygook and I don't know what to do today, I don't know what to put in this journal. If that's all you say, you're building the muscle memory of a very important action. And that is being able to hear your thought, shape it into a communicative way, and get it to come out of you. You're literally practicing hearing and delivering your thoughts when you journal. And everyone's like, I don't know how to journal. I don't journal well. I'm afraid of journaling. What if someone finds my journal? Quit thinking about it. That's like going to the gym and being like, what if someone sees me trying to work out? What if someone catches me trying to build muscles or build a booty or look better or be more confident in my body? At some point, you're going to let something like that stop you from radical clarity or radical fitness. Number 1, keep a journal. Take 10 minutes and write whatever's coming to mind, what your fears, concerns, joys are, what you're grateful for. I can come up with a framework, but anything. If the thought hits you, write it. I don't want to be doing this. I think Grant's dumb. Write it down. I don't care, but get the habit going. I imagine through fiction. Another thing you could do to nurture this habit is to try to write fiction. Listen, as adults, we have lost the ability to play. As adults, we don't play anymore, and I'm the guilty one on this big time. What happened to our ability to play? We get so overwhelmed with our responsibilities and solving problems. We lose sight of how to play. An aspect of writing is when you sit down to write, journal. And if you don't know what to write, say, I don't know what to write. Make up a story. Billy went down to school today. This sounds stupid. You know what's stupid is when you go to the gym and you can't lift heavy weights and you lift light weights instead. But it's not stupid. It feels stupid, but we know it's not. We know it's part of the process. Being able to write through fiction and tell a story is one of the most critical human skills to being a leader that you've ever had. To be able to tell an anecdote, to be able to relay with creative license something that happened to you, anonymize it, and spin the stories in a helpful way that's kind of a parable or a story that empowers your followers to take action. So when you set your timer for 10 minutes and you start your journal, if you're stuck, imagine through fiction. Fiction isn't escapism. It's training your imagination to see beyond your present. Fiction, let me say that again. Fiction isn't escapism. It's training your imagination to see beyond the present, to be in the moment and see outside of the moment. Because when people argue with you and you get sucked into the argument, or the world's throwing news at you and you get sucked into that news, you become a consumer. You're not thinking critically. But with fiction, you can be in the moment and you can train your brain to see something in another way. Fiction is nurturing the control of your mind, the direction of it. So write one what if story this week. What if I did this? What if I traveled to Florence, Italy? What if I call this success fiction when it's not complete fantasy, when you write what if statements about your own life. And it's this success fiction where you say, what if I lost 50 pounds? Or what if I became a content creator? Or what if I became good at writing? Or what if I became a great parent that I've always wanted to be? Or what if I was making the money I wanted to make? If you look at this chapter in Think and Grow Rich, one pastor wrote, if I had $1 million, what if I had $1 million? He was so inspired by this, he gave a sermon about it. He put it in the newspaper, said, I'm going to do a sermon on if I had $1 million. He did the sermon. A man walked up to him. It was Andrew Carnegie and wrote him $1 million check. No, if you write fiction, someone will not always necessarily write you $1 million check. But my point in telling you this fiction story or this fantasy story or this retelling with creative license, a story in Think and Grow Rich, my purpose is to relay a truth and that there is value in storytelling. So as you write in your journal, the King's Habit, write 6 pages a day. The first thing is start in your journal. The second thing is write fiction. And if you can't think of fiction, write nonfiction. K-I-N. Write nonfiction. Nonfiction writing disciplines your brain to organize your ideas and structure them. If you're writing nonfiction, your brain has to literally organize. And people are not practicing organizing. They literally have a thought, they pop up and they go, hey, by the way, X, Y, and Z. And you're like, there's no structure here. Like, what the heck? And now it's up to you to be the thinker. You know how often people come to me and think that they're giving me an idea and they're not. They're giving me a feeling. And they're putting it on my plate to shape it from a feeling to an organized idea. Or what people are doing is they're asking ChatGPT to organize it for them. That's fine. And I do believe in using these tools. But what we have to be able to do is part of critical thinking is to have the ability to create structures and systems with your own brain. So not only do I recommend you journal, not only do I recommend you practice telling what if stories. What if I traveled to Vancouver? What if I spoke to that person I've been hesitating to speaking to? What if and write these pieces of what if fiction. Now you're actually writing nonfiction. And nonfiction are all of these skills coming together. Nonfiction is the most applicable to other people. There's systems on how to run the business. There are visions on what we're going to do to improve our nonprofit. There are forums on how to get fit. When it comes to being a coach and a trainer for fitness, it's the same skill. You have to get someone to have the buy-in and they got to be confident, but then you've got to be able to tell the story. And that story is, hey, what do you weigh right now? Man, I'm 50 pounds overweight. Great. This is what we're going to do. And you start to sow this vision. We're going to spend the next 6 weeks together and we're going to do this. And then you're going to feel great. And you're selling them on this fictional story. That's what vision is. It's what you know for certain about your future. It is currently fiction until you make it real. And then comes the nonfiction. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to get your diet right. We're going to get your fitness program right. Or in terms of money, we're going to start budgeting your time. We're going to start budgeting your money. We're going to start creating a vision board of what you want to do with the business. If you cannot do this, do not outsource this to ChatGPT, please. Because I'm seeing the business owners and the people around me not be able to form their thoughts, especially when they need to. I'll ask ChatGPT then. That's fine, but at some point, you are no longer needed. I'll just hire ChatGPT because you've talked to it, you had an inspiration, but you didn't have the ability to implement. You have to be able to cultivate your brain to create structures and systems, and this is the power of writing nonfiction. So that if you go back to the leadership framework that we had our mini series about, that's not this, but if you go back to that, it's like 4 out of 5 steps, LIGHT. One was leading yourself, but the other 4 steps was about leading other people. And one of those is to be able to put actionable plans inside of other people's hands. And people now know if you got this from ChatGPT. But if you actually intrinsically know the material and work with ChatGPT to get these structures and systems and then to critique it and to shape it, it's just a medium. But most people aren't using it. They're replacing their brain's own ability. And you cannot replace your brain's own ability because people will not receive it. There was a killer article that studied how people respond to AI-generated articles. First and foremost, they asked the respondents to guess which of the articles they were reading were written by humans versus AI. And they couldn't guess. The AI is so good, they couldn't guess. Then they asked them to read the articles. Then they asked them to rank the articles based on their favorite articles and not favorite articles. And what they were actually doing was tracking the eye to see if they actually finished the articles. Nearly 20%, only 20% of the articles that were written by AI would get finished, and nearly 100% of the articles written by humans did get finished. They already could not identify which was human and which was AI, but they had an unconscious intuition that they were just skimming the slop. And it wasn't slop because they couldn't tell it was AI, but they unconsciously did not finish the articles that were written by AI. So if your resume is created by AI, and you put that in front of a job board or a hiring manager, actually sit across from them, the chances of them finishing it are 20%, 80% lower than if you had actually crafted that thing yourself, warts and all. Jessica says, wow, that's wild. People know, Jessica. This is why people are putting out books, and the fiction books are being skimmed, not completely read. So the scoring, the ratings on those books are actually significantly lower. Jessica Ojeda, to those on Instagram, Jessica Ojeda on Facebook said, wow, that's wild. It's nuts. And here's the thing. If we are not honing our mind's ability to think critically, we'll just dismiss it as, oh, you're just a naysayer. You're just not adopting new technology. No, I am heavily adopting new technology. I'm adopting it with care. Like, I don't just grab paints from Michael's and set them on the desk and go, okay, paint yourselves. And then take that to people and go, look, this thing is painted itself. I actually take the paints as a tool and I mix them and I match them and I put them on the canvas and I make a critical decision if I'll use that or not. That is how we should be using AI. It's just another tool in the tool chest. So in the King's habit is writing 6 pages a day. And mind you, Stephen King, when he came up with this habit, he realized that 6 pages a day on a 360-page book or a 36,000-page book is only about 3 months of writing. So if you are journaling, and we're covering this, journaling first, writing nonfiction second, even if it's short what-if stories. What if I became, in Jessica's case, what if I became an energy healer? What if I got in front of just what-if fictions? And then you start rolling it into nonfiction, you will begin to structure the way your brain thinks and anchoring it. And the clarity that you will feel yourself to bring into your leadership moments with your followers. Your followers know intuitively if you actually have any leadership and vision or not. If people are rejecting your leadership, it's because you do not have leadership exuding your pores. Grant, I'm saying the right things. Grant, I'm posting the right things. It's the unseen cues, the presence, the energy, the moments of confidence that you have that go, hey, listen, if they waver, this is what I'm going to do next. I've thought of that. Why? Because I journaled. Or I wrote what if statements, or I wrote and structured my ideas. This is what leaders do. So your nonfiction habit, draft at least a 1-page outline or essay of your core beliefs. What do you believe? For Jessica and Miguel, what is your leadership framework? What are your core values? Summarize them. No, don't just give us the normal playbook from someone else. Write yours down. Starbucks used to have its value statement beyond the mission statement. I want to know your value statement. Spark, we started this. We only got to 3 of Spark core values. But we tried not to force them and create a bunch of them. We only articulate them when they become a real principle. We believe in community. We believe in educating. We believe in enthusiasm. We believe in encouraging. We believe in empowering. We have a handful of these that we come back to. They're written out. Last one. G, K-I-N-G, the King framework for the King's habit. Generate daily pages. Journal daily. Write your fiction. It could be success fiction. It could be what the day should go like. Today, I'm going to try to do X, Y, and Z. What if I knocked X, Y, and Z out today? What if I shipped these things? What if I wrote these things? What if I produced these things? Generate daily what-if stories. And then nonfiction. Tell your team what to do. Outline a process. If you have a business, you should be doing this anyway. I would count working on your systems manual as part of your pages for your business. I am literally talking about a skill that translates into your practical business. If you cannot produce the steps on how to pitch a client, the steps on how to find a client, you are not building a business, you're building a job, and you're your own worst boss. But if every day you are outlining your process, hey, I sold something new that I never sold before. Okay, outline the process. Well, I don't know the process. Write it. You've been cultivating your brain to imagine it, then to journal it, then to write the fiction what if, and now the structure systems. You now are cultivating a brain to lead. Because you can go from fantasy to fact, as Bob Proctor called it. Bob Proctor, one of my favorite mentors. He wrote a fantastic 8-part CD series that I got in the early 2000s that I've now digitized and I listen to nearly every single day. And I think lesson 3 is from fantasy to fact. And it's this beautiful method by which you translate the energetic impulses that truly inspire you, that truly lift you up, that you truly believe in, and turning it into a fact in reality. And this whole process of how do I take it from inside my mind, inside me, and how do I translate that out? That is leadership. That's the importance of leadership. So what is the King's habit? 6 pages a day. The King's habit of the 2 stages of creation. The first stage of creation is in the imagination. The second stage of creation is when you actually give it form through writing. When you take that ink, that's chaotic liquid, and you shape it into the forms of the letters, or when you take the electrons of the world and you start typing them out on your phone or on your desktop or on your keyboard, you are literally bringing order from an ethereal chaos. This idea and inspiration that was in the ether, you have now placed in an orderly way, and you've given it the best shot of being born and growing into that manifested reality. If you dream of going to Florence, don't just dream about it, write it down. Don't just create a dream board, write it down. In fact, you want to give it even more life, write it again every morning in your journal, on your sticky note, in your book. Because the study of neurographology is the connection of writing and wiring in the brain, because it becomes 3-dimensional. It goes from being an ethereal thought and an impulse into actual shape and form. And this is how big goals are achieved. More than big goals. You will find yourself, you might not even be trying to lead. Hear me on this. You could be not trying to lead, but have vision and clarity from your writing, and people will just follow you. The more vision and clarity you have, People will just follow you. Yes, it's great to talk about ideas. Yes, it's great to talk about, this thought I had or this one clarity I had. Those are insights and those are mystical and awesome. But people very rarely follow mystics. They hear them, they absorb from them, but they very rarely follow mystics. They do follow leaders. So as you go about your day today, remember, there's a whole mini series we did on leadership. We're going to codify that and give that to you as a resource so that if you ever wonder, how should I lead? We got a whole framework. But if you wanted to cultivate one skill that will by default make you a leader, that will by default put the skills in your body and in your mind and in your hands and then transmit those to other people, it's the King's Habit, which is 6 pages a day. And if you're not sure what to do, sorry, I'm losing my voice here. Keep a journal every day. Every day. Open up that journal. Could be a Google Drive document. Could be a physical journal. Open it up. Capture your thoughts before the world and your feeds distort them. Your inspirations. I woke up in bed and I was super inspired to do a coffee truck. Don't really know if I want to do it. Kind of afraid about X, Y, and Z. Not really sure about A, B, and C, but I thought of it. Kind of mad about this. Kind of afraid for my money. Kind of whatever it is. Journal it. Imagine through fiction. What if today instead I did X, Y, and Z? What if today instead I did A, B, and C? What if this December I traveled to A, B, and C? What if journal these fiction moments and see how it makes you feel and capture them, get them out of your imagination into reality. And note then the nonfiction. It would take A, B, and C to accomplish the what if. Start giving it structure. I'd have to do this. I'd have to do this. Or today, start structuring your day. Nonfiction. Writing, it disciplines your brain to organize your ideas. So write an essay of your core beliefs. That's a starting point. Or just write what I believe today as a fact. And then generate pages daily. Listen, clarity doesn't strike like lightning. It drops like ink. Let me say that again. Clarity does not strike like lightning. It drips like ink. Clarity comes and the drips and the persistence. Vision, inspiration might hit like lightning, but clarity drips like ink. Leaders who write daily don't just lead better. They see further. They think sharper. They move bolder. And this is the King's Habit. I pray you journal today. I pray that you get clarity today. I pray that you lead in the thing you're trying to lead today. But as we say, no matter what you do today, remember the mission: igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with